We're going to be learning how to factor polynomials with 4 terms. So this is the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So every time they give you a polynomial with 4 terms to factor, the first thing is look at the coefficients, right? Do they have any common factors? And in this case, they do not. Then another thing, look at the powers, right? The order of the polynomial. Is it in the right order? What I mean by that is it starts with the highest power followed by the next power followed by, this is 3, 2, 1. If you look at the exponents, they have to be in descending. Meaning, for example, if it's x, it has to start with x to the power 6, maybe, followed by maybe 2x to the power 5, followed by maybe 3x to the power 4. I'm calling this power, but you can call it exponent. It's also fine. Followed by maybe 7 to the 7x to the power 2. It has to be all ordered out correctly. So when you look at this example, it is actually. So after looking at all those two conditions, then we're going to factor the first 2 terms alone and also factor the last 2 terms alone. So looking at the first 2 terms, let me break this down like this. Looking at these first 2 terms, right, you can factor out a w squared. And here you'll be left with w plus 5, right? And then looking at my next 2 terms, the negative is common, so first start with the negative. But look at this coefficient, 8 and 40. What is the greatest common factor? 8 and 40? That will be 8. So if you factor out 8, you'll be left with w plus 5. Now, mind you, if you expand this, it has to take you back to these 2 terms. The same way, if you expand this, it has to take you back to these 2 terms. And by the way, guys, I introduced, this is a series of videos where I did an introduction to factoring, looking for the greatest common factor. So if you haven't watched those videos, please go back and watch those videos. They're going to help you a lot to understand this video. So another trick is whatever you end up with in bracket has to be the same. You see, this parenthesis has w plus 5 and this parenthesis has w plus 5. So whatever you end up with in parentheses, make sure it's the same. So you factor out whatever is outside the parentheses, you combine them. So w2 minus 8. So I'm getting this w squared minus 8 into bracket w plus 5. So that is what you end up with. Again, as I always say, give it time, it will start making sense. But let's look at example 2, right? Again, look at the coefficients. Do we have any greatest common factors? No, we do not. Then after, look at the exponents. Are they ordered the right way? I'm saying 5 followed by 3 followed by 2. So that is a correct way of ordering exponents. Much as we don't have exponent 4, that's fine, as long as it's in descending orders. So at this point, I'm going to divide this exponent into 2. I'm going to look at the first 2 terms, factor them alone, and then look at the next 2 terms, factor them alone. If you look at these 2 terms, the common factor that you can factor out is p to the third. So p to the third, and then in here you'll be left with the first term will reduce to p squared minus 6. So that is factored. Now I'm going to factor the next 2 terms alone. So let me factor out the minus 2. You see this? If you have a 2 and a 12, right, it has a greatest common factor of 2. But because this is a minus, let me factor out the minus. So the minus 2, and in bracket, I have to make sure whatever I have in parentheses is the same. So if I factor out the minus 2, I'll be left with p squared minus 6. Why? Because if I distribute, I have to go back to this. Look at what you're ending up in parentheses. Is it the same? If it's the same, you're on the right track. So then you're going to combine what is outside the parentheses. So p cubed minus 2, and then p squared minus 6. Another thing I want you to look at, these p squared minus 6, if this is a difference of 2 squares, you would still factor further. So this is what we're ending up with. All right, guys, thank you for watching this video. See you in my next video. Bye.